The Barracuda add an interesting name to the goalie pipeline and get ready for their big series against the Ontario Reign.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow on wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be, it's all Barracuda today, baby, as we look at Matt Davis, who the Barracuda signed for a contract starting for next season, but is already in San Jose. Look at what the Barracuda are getting with him and where he fits, I think, in the organizational pipeline. Plus, Thursday night, Barracuda are back in playoffs for the first time in forever, as the great Anna once said. We're going to be looking at the series, kind of digging into it, doing a preview of it, looking at how the two teams match up, dig into the keys and the X factors for the series as the Barracuda look to play spoiler against the Reign. So let's start out with Matt Davis. Of course, the Barracuda signed him to an AHL-only contract starting for the 25-26 season. He's already in San Jose. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on it amateur tryout, as we see with a lot of these players, where just going to hang around the facilities right now, get some, just get used to things and get some training in right now before the off season starts. So Matt Davis, highly decorated collegiate career. So with the University of Denver, let's start with, he's 6'1", 192 pounds, 23 years old, has played with the University of Denver for the last 4 seasons. Before that, he played 1 season in the USHL with the Green Bay Gamblers. We're in 35 games. He put up a 334 goals against, 895 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. Only played 2 playoff games, but put up some pretty solid numbers despite losing both those with the Gamblers. Went on to the University of Denver, where he spent some time backing up Magnus Krona, a name you probably are very familiar with. Of course, the Sharks, one-time Sharks goalie prospect, before taking over during the 2023-2024 season. So 2023-24, he won national championship with the University of Denver, posting 31 games and 234 goals against, 917 save percentage with 2 shutouts, went 23-5-3. This season, played 40 games, 207 goals against average, 924 save percentage, 1 shutout, 29-10-1. And we know Denver did not win the national championship, made it to the Final Four. Insane numbers. During his time with the University of Denver, in 94 games, 213 goals against, 921 save percentage, 63 wins, 6 shutouts. So not the biggest dude, right? 6'1", like he's not the most athletic dude, but just like dude makes big saves in the biggest moments. And if you remember watching the national championship game between Boston College and Denver, dude faced a bajillion shots in that game. Like BC did basically everything they could other than throw the kitchen sink at him. And he stood tall against that. Remember, that was the Will Smith BC team with Cutter Gauthier, like Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perot. Like that team was star-studded. And Matt Davis is the reason why Denver won that game. So, again, like highly decorated. This guy was He won the 2024, won the Frozen Four most outstanding player. Like I said, 2-time national championship. One where he was the backup behind Magnus Krona. And then, of course, the 2024 year where he was the starter. NCAA Frozen Four all tournament team. He also was a standing player in the regionals that year as well. National Player of the Month in the April 2024, National Goaltender of the Month, March 2024. Like, this dude has done, he was even the team's MVP in the 23-24 season. Like, Matt Davis, dude is a competitive dude. So again, he signed an AHL only contract. So that doesn't mean he can't eventually sign an NHL contract, but I think where he fits in is more organizational depth, right? We know both Romanov and Gabe Carrier are both free agents, and I do expect both those guys to be back in the organization in some capacity, right? You kind of course, you have Askarov at the top. You have, goalie X, whatever free agent or veteran that they go trade for that acquire this offseason, whether, like I said, through free agency or through trade. And then you probably have Carrier, Romanov. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Sharks go out and try to find another AHL veteran, an Aaron Dell type of not, doesn't have to be Aaron Dell, but just another veteran, right? And you honestly, you can't have too many goaltenders, especially, right? It's very easy to run through some of these goaltenders. So with Matt Davis, I kind of expect him to either compete to be on the Barracuda next year, or maybe he just does the Gabe Carrier thing where he starts out in the ECHL, he plays really well down there, and then he moves up at some point during the season and starts to play some games in the AHL. But my guess is he's probably going to be kind of that third or fourth member of the Barracuda goal, depending on what they do this off season when it comes to adding more pieces. But you can never have enough depth among the goaltending, and we've seen the Sharks have success in finding some of these guys. And again, Matt Davis is not some unknown quantity. He has proven and he has played very well on some of the biggest stages. So I don't know what his like upside is, organizational depth. Maybe he becomes like the third goalie, kind of eventually rises up to be like the third goalie, where maybe he's your top AHL goalie. And then if you need him to play a couple games here and there in the NHL because of injuries or whatever, that maybe that's his ceiling. But again, this is a dude who just, anytime he's given an opportunity, right, he is shown time and time again. And yes, these Denver teams are very good teams, right? Like, there's always been very good pieces in front of him. But still, like, I think this is definitely someone worth kind of taking a flyer on, right? It didn't cost you anything, did it? You just signed him to a contract. It's not like you had to. And he's kind of put in his work in the collegiate level. So I really like this signing. I think there is a good chance that at some point, maybe not this right now, but at some point, I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Davis earns an NHL contract, just because, again, I think he's a guy who, like, he's not gonna, like, the most technical guy. He's not the most athletic guy, but the dude just competes, kind of like Romanov. Like, Romanov's extremely athletic and much bigger, but like, he just kind of battles and competes. And I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Davis just kind of keeps battling and competing and eventually earns himself an NHL contract at some point. So, but yeah, I sign me up. The more goalies, the better, right? And like, you look at the Sharks. Vitek Vanacek, Georgi Romanov, Askarov, Blackwood, Alexander Gorgiev. That's 5 goalies the Sharks use this season alone, right? The Barracuda use Askarov. They use Gabe Carrier. They use Aaron Dell. Romanov. Like, they used 4. Like, there's plenty of room, and he will most likely play AHL games at some point next year, just because the odds are that somebody somewhere is going to get banged up here. We hope for health, but the odds are he's going to probably play AHL games at some point next year. So yeah, I'm excited for him. I think this is a no-brainer type of signing for the for the Barracuda, and we'll get him in the pipeline, see what he can do, and see if he can continue to progress. So we're going to switch gears here and talk about this Barracuda versus Ontario-Reign series. We're going to kind of compare the two teams, dig into the numbers, look at kind of how the Barracuda have a lot of advantages. Like when you look at some of the numbers, dig into the keys and the X factors behind the series here in just 1 second. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love with FanDuel, of course, right? You watching Steph Curry do fun Steph Curry things because Steph Curry's awesome. Why not make some money as Steph Curry does cool things? From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right. Before we continue, we dig into this Barracuda series. I do, of course, want to thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. If you haven't yet, perfect time to hit that subscribe button, especially if you're watching on YouTube. We will be doing live postcasts after every Barracuda game on YouTube, so you'll be able to check those out. We'll still have all of your normal Locked On Sharks episodes that will premiere their normal times. They'll be out on wherever you listen to podcasts, but YouTube only. Come hang out with me after the Barracuda games. We'll kind of our reactions, get into all that, and just kind of talk Barracuda, because this is the first time I have gotten to cover playoff games in my career at Locked On Sharks, be it Barracuda or be it Sharks. This is the first time, so we're going to have some fun. So make sure you guys are following along. Of course, wherever you get podcasts, and you can watch on YouTube as well. So, Reign Cuda. Of course, the Barracuda succeed. Blew the 5th seed the last game of the series and last game of the season, and are now playing the Ontario-Reign. All 3 games are in LA. I think the first 2 games are in Crypto, and the game 3, if necessary, is at the Toyota, wherever in Ontario where the Reign normally play. So just as like with the AHL, they've got some rules in there with travel and stuff like that. I know a lot of fans are like, well, why isn't there a home game? If the 2 teams are basically over 350 miles away from each other, they give the home team all 3 games, right? In the best of 3 series here. In game 2, the Barracuda will like get treated like the home team, like they'll have the last change, all that type of stuff. But it'll still be in LA. So at the crypto.com. So that's why, right? And especially with the AHL, like in the Northeast, it's not as bad, right? Most of the teams are a little bit closer, so you can kind of do that. But right in the Pacific, it stinks because of all the teams being so spread out. So it does kind of stink with that. But so that's why all 3 games are in LA. So how these 2 teams match up. So Barracuda went 36-27-9. The Reign went 43-25-4. The Barracuda had averaged 3.39 goals for per game, 3rd best in the AHL. Goals allowed, 3.21, 22nd best in the AHL. Power play, number 1, 24% in the AHL. 82.5% on the PK, 16th. For the Reign, 3.13 goals for per game, 14th. Goals allowed, 2.88, 12th. The power play at 17.3%, 24th. The PK at 83.5%, 10th in the AHL. Poturalski led the Barracuda in everything. Goals, 30. Assists, 43. Points, total points, and 73. Fujimo led the Reign with 29 goals. Hudon with 44 assists and 64 points. So let's start with Poturalski, who is not expected to be available for this series. He's still dealing with his lower body injury, still considered week to week. Also, apparently third child's coming along as well. So don't expect him to be in this series. Thomas Bordeleau and Lucas Carlson expected to miss game 1. I think Lucas Carlson has a personal issue, and Bordeleau is still dealing with his injury from the one game he played in the NHL. Carlson should be available for game 2. We'll see if Bordeleau eventually joins the team here. So I think you can clearly see, like, this is a Barracuda team. If you've watched this season, like, they can score with the best of them. This Barracuda team's offense is absolutely ridiculous when it's going. But especially down the stretch here has shown some signs of sputtering here and there. And I think that as we'll get into the keys and stuff like that, that's going to be something to watch out. The Reign are just kind of that team where, like, they're just kind of pretty good at everything, but maybe not excellent at one thing, right? Where especially where they rank, they're all kind of 10th through 15th type of positioning when it comes to, like, the rankings, but scoring and stuff like that. So I think, though, for this series and for the Barracuda, it's going to be, kind of coming down to playing their game. Nice thing too with the Barracuda is, like, they're fully stocked with all their players, right? Especially since with the Sharks season done. I believe the Reign are potentially stocked, but if the Kings maybe deal with some injuries or deal with some trouble here, like, you could see players pulled out as the Kings are trying to make their playoff run here and, finally beat the Edmonton Oilers, the big bag Edmonton Oilers, who have been, of course, they're kind of their kryptonite for the past bajillion years. So, we'll kind of focus more right now on the Reign and kind of getting to know them a little bit more. But this is a team that does have some really quality scoring options among them. Like we talked about, Hudon and Fujimo. Fujimo has been an absolute Barracuda killer throughout his career, right? As a dude who feels like he always scores against the Barracuda. You have Glenn Godwin, who's also put up 62 points this season in 72 games, including 26 goals. Jeff Malott, 51 points in 61 games. Like, they're, old friend Jack Studnicka, who's got 45 points in 72 games. They do have a fair, like, most of their scoring comes from their forwards. On the back end, Riley Walsh, who's got 32 points in 70 games, including 6 goals. And then Joe Hicketts, who's got 27 points in 62 games, including 3 goals. Like, they don't get a lot of scoring from their back end, but their forward group is very deep, and they can provide a ton of scoring on there. In net, I'm curious to see kind of who they lean on here. Because the main guys who've played for them this season, Phoenix Copley has kind of been the guy, and he was up with the Kings, but I assume he's going to be in net for the Reign here. So this season for the Reign, he had 42 games played. He had 2 shutouts, 249 goals against average, with a .904 save percentage. And the Eric Portillo, who is the former Michigan goalie, he played 24 games, 282 goals against, and a 889 save percentage with 0 shutouts. So those are kind of some of the big names to watch for the Reign, and kind of what to kind of expect for them. So with the Barracuda, right, it's pretty much all hands on deck with the exception of Andrew Poturalski, Bordeleau, and Carlson right now. And of course, Shakir Mukhamadullin, who's out with a shoulder injury or after having shoulder surgery. So it's pretty much all hands on deck for the Barracuda here. And I feel, as strange it is, and as good as, like, the Reign have been very good against the Barracuda. They went 5-3-0 this season. I really do actually like the Barracuda's chances to pull off the upset. in this series. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the keys to this series. And I think the players who I think are going to be the X factors for the Barracuda. We'll get to all that here in just 1 second. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, or if you're like me, I have to get doubles for my 7-year-old now. I cannot afford to feed him. It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you use Monarch to check out your finances, track spending, and plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right. And then when you are done listening to this episode, you need to go check out the Locked On NHL Game Time. Every game, every night, reactions right after the games. They got you covered until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. So, I think the keys for this series, right? And this Barracuda team, if you've watched them, they can be so frustrating because even you saw when these two teams played a couple weekends ago, Friday night, Barracuda team looked unbeatable. Just blew the doors off the Reign, whatever. Like, they gave up an early goal, and then from then on, it was all Barracuda all night. You felt amazing about this team. The next night, it felt like this team had never played hockey before. And I think that's such the frustrating thing with the Barracuda is because when they're on, they can skate with anybody. And when they're off, it makes you question what you're doing with your life. So the consistency factor for the Barracuda, right? And you're looking at a lot of players who have not played AHL playoff games before. So I think that's going to be a big thing is, can you consistently compete in these games here? And can you just be consistent night in and night out, especially in a 3-game series, right? You have 2 bad nights and this thing is over, right? You have 1 bad night and you get unlucky the next game, this series is over, right? It is 1-2 in this series. So consistency. And can we see the Barracuda play up to their game? I think the other big thing, and this has always kind of been a Barracuda bugaboo, is the penalties, right? Because this team definitely ranks up there when it comes to taking penalties. They're third in the Pacific with 1,012 penalty minutes. Nice thing is the Ontario Reign are 4th with 974. So the special teams, I think, are going to be a huge factor. Would expect less special, power play opportunities, but the Barracuda have the number 1 power play in the AHL. And yes, Andrew Poturalski missing is a huge deal, but you still have Luca Cagnoni, you still have Daniel Gushin, who scored 14 power play goals this season. It was among I think he was actually the number 1 tie with Poturalski with number 1 power play goals. You still have plenty of your pieces, Regenda, Walker Dewar, you still have a ton of these guys on the power play to help it out. So the power play needs to be sharp because I think that is your big advantage. Your power play versus their penalty kill. Just as their penalty kill is pretty good, but your power play is better. And then on the flip side, the Barracuda's penalty kill has shown signs, especially with Phil Beested back and Ethan Cardwell, those 2 guys on the penalty kill, and Patrick Giles. The Barracuda's penalty kill has been much stronger down the stretch once they started getting healthy and getting some of those guys back. against a power play in the Ontario Reign, which is just not up to snuff compared to the Barracudas. So take advantage of your special teams opportunities here if the Barracuda, and just you gotta like even though their power play is not as good, you can't just give them a bajillion chances, right? And you see it all the time. You keep giving the other team chances, they're going to even as bad as they are, they're eventually going to take advantage of it. So I do also think the Barracuda's fourth line, right? That Sabrin, Vincent, Van Roe boys line that usually kind of roll out there. That line I think is going to be a huge difference maker, because not only do they get under the other team's skin and like really annoy them and draw penalties, and yes, Anthony Vincent will take penalties as well, but he usually takes someone with him. They're also good and they score, right? They're the perfect fourth line because, yes, they're going to drive the other team crazy, but they're also skilled enough to score, and they're hardworking, and they'll score dirty goals and greasy goals that you need in the playoffs. So I think, though, the big X factor in this series is in net, because the Barracuda have Yaroslav Askarov, who I know he looks very good. Then kind of dealt with, he was sick, so we're hoping he's back together. Like this is the big moment for Askarov here. This is why he's my X factor, right? Going back to when the Sharks acquired Askarov, and the knock on Askarov was, how does he perform in these big games here? You have a very deep team in front of you, right? You can roll out four good lines. Like the lines are so good right now. Like Chernyshov and Musty might not even get in the lineup here, which is fine. Like I'm okay with Chernyshov and Musty not playing right now because, again, it is win or go home. If the Cuda get blown out in the first game and it's like 6-2 and the offense looks terrible, we can have a conversation. But I think this Barracuda team has earned the benefit of the doubt with the players who've kind of gotten them here. And I don't think Musty and Chernyshov have shown enough to kind of warrant playoff run right now, which is fine. But this all comes down to Askarov. He's the difference maker. Like you feel like with Askarov, you have the advantage in net no matter who you play, right? He's the best goalie who's not playing in the NHL right now. You have the advantage. This is Askarov's time. This is his time to kind of, he lost his net last year with the Milwaukee Admirals after a tough start to the playoffs. This is his time to lock things down, right? He played excellent to start the season. He played well with the San Jose Sharks in the second half of the season, right? It's been injuries and illness. And when we've seen him play really well. But I want to see Askarov go to that next level. And I think he is the X factor. If Askarov is the Askarov that we know and love, I'm confident the Barracuda win this series, because they have the best goalie. They're very deep. You have a lot of guys, maybe they haven't played AHL playoff games, but you have a lot of experience out there. You look at Daniel Gushin, right? You look at Phil Beestead, you look at like Colin White. You have a ton of experience out there, guys who played some big games in their lives, right? And I know Beestead, he's one season, but he's played a bunch of games in the SHL. He's played playoff games in the SHL. He's scored in playoff games in the SHL. You guys like Scott Sabrin, right? Nothing's going to phase Scott Sabrin. That man has basically done it all. I think this team is very deep, very good. And yes, I know they're missing Poturalski, but I still think this is a very talented team when they are on. And I think, again, you have Askarov, who's just better. This blue line's good. Like you are good at every spot. You have the leading you have Luca Cagnoni, who, led the league in goal, defensive scoring as a rookie. Like you're good. You have more scoring on the blue line. I think you just have more scoring options than what the Reign can put out. So if you stay out of the box, you take advantage of your special teams, and you just play up to the caliber of hockey that this team is capable of playing of, I think the Barracuda, I think they can pull this off. Actually, I believe they can pull this off. So we'll be doing, like I said, we'll be doing live postcasts after each game on YouTube. It'll probably come out about 10 to 15 minutes after. I'll have the links up and ready to go. You can hit the little notify me button. It'll let you know as soon as they start. We'll have a good time talking about the Barracuda and reacting to it and just having a blast. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until postcast time. Bye, friends.